Thank you, Morris Brown, Menlo Park. As I think everybody knows, when the Senator Simidian at a public hearing quite some time ago announced that he had requested from the Legislative Counsel Office a ruling on whether or not the proposed business plan and funding plan were going to be legal under Prop 1A. On Monday evening, I wrote an email to Senator Simidian's office asking where this ruling was and why, and what was the result of this action. Yesterday, I got a phone call from Simidian's office, and I would like to say that everything's been clarified, but this is the essence of what I was told. Number one, that such rulings can be kept private, often are kept private, and there was no assurance that any such ruling, if and when it was given, would be made public. And number two, it was made quite clear to me that the office was not saying that a ruling had been or had not been made. So at this point, I don't really know anything more than what I knew before, basically. What I do know is that they're not saying they do have the ruling or they don't have the ruling, and they're not saying that even if they had the ruling, that they would make it public. It was also emphasized that to make it public would not require the signature of Senator Bisognier as well, since it was both Bisognier and Simidian that had submitted the request. So there's a lot. My confusion is if they weren't going to make it public, then why did you announce even asking for it in a public meeting? Thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay, item number 2. Well, I do want to say that, Richard, why don't you report on item number 3?
Oh, sure. So
it's about to disappear.
Sure. So item number 3 was requested that it was on the agenda by Senator Simidian's office. They're currently in the process of working on appropriation language, and their thought was that by yesterday they would have language for us that would need to be commented on and turned around quickly. And so this special meeting was agendized. What I was told by Senator Simidian's office is that as of yesterday, the House and Senate are currently at sort of a stalemate over the HSR appropriation language. He said that both the House and the Senate currently don't have it in their budgets. Now that could very well be a negotiating tactic because the governor has said he won't sign any budget that doesn't have the language in it. So pulling something that he has said he won't sign a budget without could be a way for them to try to get something they want in. But that said, what he told me was that they hadn't moved on the language as fast as he thought. He said as soon as they do have appropriation language, they'll let us know, but he emphasized again that the turnaround is going to be very quick on all this. So we are going to need to be ready to move and schedule a special meeting at that time, maybe in a 48 to 72-hour window, if we want to comment on it.
Yeah, I want to say that you got this information at 5 o'clock last night.
Yes. So, my apologies, but it's obviously a fluid situation. So.
Okay. So we're ready now for item number 2.
Hello, this is John Garamendi.
Hello, John. Larry Klein and Nancy Shepard and Pat Bird. So how are things in Sacramento today?
Well, it's going to be a hot one. Things are going well. You know, we're working on the budget, and that is a closed-door process, but with lots of light shining under the doors at various times. And what the best notice I've got at the moment is that the high-speed rail is not going to be included in this budget, but will follow in the trailer bill next week or so. So we're not expecting it to come out in this budget, but there's still a couple days left before the deadline, so we're not sure where it might stick in. And in fact, the operating funds might be part of that trailer bill as well, which would be surprising, but hard to be too surprised in Sacramento these days. So we're hearing that on the budget, and I hope that you guys are hearing the same thing, or?
Yes, just we got a call from Senator Simitian's office yesterday at 5 p.m. saying no language for us to review, which was one of the purposes of having this meeting today. So that's consistent, I think.
Okay, and he's still expecting to see it, the trailer language will come out, I'm assuming, as soon as the budget's complete?
Well, John, Richard Hackman, I spoke with one of his staffers, and what he had told me was that right now there's no HSR appropriation language included in the House or the Senate versions of the budget. He didn't know if that was a negotiating tactic or not, but he said at this point he has no language for us to comment on. So my impression was that if it does make it into the budget, it's going to be at the 11th hour, or if not, it's going to be in some sort of trailer bill.
That would be my expectation too, Richard. I am hearing that that there's the CEQA comments that came out, that were floated out last week, really landed with a thud, and that there's a lot of resistance, especially in the Assembly, to any sort of CEQA revisions. So that weighs well for us. So if they try to link the trailer bill with CEQA exemptions for this project, I think they're going to run into very strong opposition in the Assembly. And certainly, from what I'm hearing, any sort of linking it to the Bay Delta conservation process or the Peripheral Canal is going to fall flat with the Republicans as well. So they're trying to find out. I think they're doing probing with these various deals to try to figure out whether there might be a weakness or an opportunity, and it doesn't seem to be emerging yet, from what I understand. And obviously, with the caveat that things change very quickly in Sacramento. So
okay.
That's what I'm hearing.
Other questions or comments from colleagues?
Well, I have a basic one. When you talk about a trailer bill, what exactly does that mean?
A trailer bill is a bill that's going to, it will come after the budget, and it's sort of like an add-on. In many ways, they use them to enable a piece of legislation that they may have budgeted for. More and more what it's being used for, to be frank, they'll balance the budget and then they'll balance it with the trailer bill. As I'm sure City of Palo Alto would love to have that ability. But apparently only the legislature can. And so that's what it'll be. So what it would probably look like is a bill that will follow, that'll have the bond language in it, that will release the bond funding, and in that there will be budget language to fund the high-speed rail authority, and all kinds of other stuff could be put in or not be put in. And it's a very good question, because trailer bills are used to do a lot of things. So what exactly is the trailer bill is going to be very interesting to see how that happens.
And so does that then mean that they don't have to account for how they're going to find money to pay for a trailer bill? Is that what you're saying, that this way the budget gets unbalanced?
Yes. Yes.
Okay. So you balance a budget, get that approved, then you come in with a subsequent piece of legislation that doesn't have to be responsible for accounting for dollars. Okay.
I'm sure they would not characterize it that way, but I think in practical terms, that's pretty much what it is.
The trailer bill is not only used for appropriations, it's used for other purposes too, to policy provisions of one kind or another.
Exactly.
Hi, John. Pat. On the, we had yesterday a big announcement of there was a press conference of the Caltrain and the Bay Area Council jointly announced a study that was an economic study commissioned by the Bay Area Council on the impact of electrification at Caltrain. And within that, there was an implication, although a careful reading shows it's only an implication and not a statement, that the Caltrain funding would be dependent on the high-speed rail funding going through the legislature, the Caltrain electrification funding. The more careful reading was that it didn't state that that funding was to be in this round of appropriations, but it was dependent on it, which I think the argument would be that if high-speed rail wasn't funded, then the future electrification wouldn't be subsequently funded in the next year or two. Have you heard anything about a change from what we had previously understood, which is that the bookend funding will not be in this appropriation round?
I think the implication that you're talking about is that they're trying to link the two to high-speed rail funding is correct. It's not clear, and I think what the bookend funding initially is going to be is the $900 million in connectivity funding, and it's not clear to me when that will be coming out. I hear it might be coming out as part of this trailer, and then I hear it may not be. I'm sorry, I'm just not clear on where they intend to put it in. I imagine they've sold that $900 million many times to many different organizations. And it'll be interesting to see how they actually, when rubber meets the road, what they actually do with that $900 million and how they actually get it out.
And with a related question, on that $900 million that was the connectivity funding, that was the $900 million out of the $9.9 billion in the Prop 1A funding, could those dollars be allocated to the bookends even if the legislature does not at this time go forward with Prop 1A funding? If they haven't killed high-speed rail but they don't fund it in this legislative cycle, does that in any way prevent the $900 million from being funded on the connectivity?
My guess would be that would be the case, because they'd have to issue the bonds to release that $900 million, my understanding.
But couldn't they aren't going to release those bonds this year, is our understanding anyway. So come next year, if say high-speed rail was on life support and not dead,
right?
Could they release the $900 million for connectivity?
I suppose they could, yes.
Okay.
Yes. I did see, in a couple of notes that I've seen, Chairman Richards has that $900 million committed from everything from community extensions to the Union Station in Los Angeles. So,
right.
Yeah, I'm sure that's a well overcommitted $900 million, and I suppose they could release that if they could show that it was connecting to a proposed and future high-speed rail project.
Good. And then on the CEQA side of things, one we wanted to hear if you're aware of any updates. We saw yesterday, was it NRDC that came out with their letter? Yeah, not quite as strong as the Sierra Club letter, but still pretty strong in opposition to those exemptions. It occurred to me after our last Rail Committee meeting late last week that we had quizzed Caltrain repeatedly in recent months as we were hearing rumors of the governor wanting to pursue CEQA exemption, even as Dan Richard was denying explicitly that twice before Senator Simitian's hearings, that Caltrain kind of gave an inexplicit answer to our inquiries, that they've always been in favor of certain minor
what they call it?
Streamlining. It now occurs to me that we should be asking Caltrain their position on the governor's proposal, although they don't have another board meeting until early July.
August 2nd.
Or not until August 2nd. They even skip one.
Yeah.
Okay, so that opportunity probably would only fall on asking individual board members their position or the CEO there. But we've also got on the bookend, we have OCTA, who opposed the high-speed rail plan at their last meeting, and others in the LA version of MTC. Are you aware of any discussion around them taking policy positions on the CEQA exemption proposals by the governor?
I have not heard of them taking any position on it. I would imagine that they'd be hard-pressed. While I'm sure they would like to have some tweaking in CEQA, I think they'd be very hard-pressed to actually take a position for any change in CEQA. But no, I have heard nothing of their position on that issue.
And do you think that if these agencies took a position in opposition to the governor, it would add any considerable weight to the opposition to the exemptions?
It would add weight. I don't know whether it would tip the scale. It certainly would not hurt, and it could help us. But if their next meeting as a board is not till August, a large part of that, the CEQA game, is going to be played out by then.
Right.
So they may not be put on the spot and have to make a vote on that before that time. I mean, I have a feeling the CEQA exemption is either going to rise or fall very quickly, and I would predict that it's going to fall. I think it could be a real poison pill to the Democrats.
So that kind of partly answers my final question on the political landscape, on what you're hearing, even if it's rumor mill, on both the CEQA exemption and how many senators are still undecided on the overall high-speed rail funding.
Yeah, I think it's virtually impossible to vote, to drop the votes on this. My gut would tell me we're behind, but it's impossible because we don't have that proposal to know exactly. I think that if the governor ties it to CEQA, it would be a real strategic mistake because I think that you would lose, you certainly put at risk Democrat votes. And my understanding is that leadership is not in favor of tweaking CEQA. I think they got, and especially because it doesn't take too much conspiracy theory to see how any tweak to CEQA is going to cascade into other major projects across the state, including the Peripheral Canal or anything else. And so I think that would be a real strategic mistake for them to keep that in there. But at the same time, without CEQA changes, they're probably not going to be able to meet their deadline. And I think that, the deadline question, I think, is going to be paramount, especially as the Brady lawsuit moves forward and other lawsuits which are being considered move forward, because they won't make the deadlines. The agencies, the Fish and Game, the Wildlife Service, the Army Corps have not issued their permits yet. And there's a great article in the LA Times earlier this weekend about that. So they've got them. I don't know how they could possibly legally make their deadlines. So I think that they will continue to try to push on CEQA, but I don't think that that's going to help them a lot.
Just final comment, the irony of Central Valley, or Republican lawmakers, and in particular Central Valley lawmakers in California, becoming suddenly the great defenders of CEQA doesn't escape me. I never thought I'd find them championing for tiger salamanders.
Oh no, you guys, it's strange bedfellows indeed. Strange bedfellows indeed. I don't think there's been coalitions built like this since the Peripheral Canal in 1982.
Okay, thanks.
Certainly.
Well, I think we're going to move on, John. You're welcome to stay on the phone, or